They say you hear it when your heart breaks. A clean snap, like a wishbone pulled apart by greedy hands. They're wrong. When your heart dies, it doesn't snap. It rots. Slowly. Cell by cell. Beat by dying beat. Mine died on a Tuesday, in a hotel hallway that smelled of bleach and broken vows, while my husband moaned my brother's name behind a door marked 306. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even knock. I just stood there, listening to the two men I loved most in this world destroy me with their pleasure, and felt something cold and ancient wake up in the hollow space where my heart used to be. By the time I walked away from that door, Alexis Morgan, the trusting wife, the devoted sister, the good girl who believed in happy endings, was already dead. What walked out of that hotel was something else entirely, something they should have feared, but they were too busy celebrating their beautiful lie to notice they'd just created their own executioner. Part 1. The Mask 3 months earlier. I woke up on the morning of my 3rd wedding anniversary, believing I was the luckiest woman alive. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of our penthouse apartment, painting gold across white sheets and my husband's sleeping face. Daniel Morgan looked like a god in repose. Sharp jawline, dark hair falling carelessly across his forehead, lips that had whispered 1,000 promises I'd foolishly believed. "Happy anniversary, beautiful," he murmured, eyes still closed, pulling me close. I melted into him the way I always did. 3 years of marriage, and he still made my stomach flutter, still made me feel chosen. Special. His. 3 years. I whispered against his chest. Best 3 years of my life. Ours is just beginning. His voice was honey smooth, and I drank it down like poison disguised as medicine. If I'd known then what I know now, I would have run. Grabbed my keys, my dignity, my trust fund, and disappeared into a life where men like Daniel Morgan couldn't reach me. But I didn't know, and that ignorance, that beautiful, terrible innocence, would cost me everything. My phone buzzed as Daniel headed to the shower. A text from Chris, my big brother. "Happy anniversary, sis. Dinner tonight. My treat. Want to celebrate my favorite couple." I smiled. Chris had been my protector since childhood, the one constant in a life marked by an absent father and a mother who loved vodka more than her children. When Mom died and Dad disappeared into his new family, Chris held my hand through the funeral and every dark day after. He walked me down the aisle when Daniel proposed. Actually cried, during our vows. "Your brother loves you so much," Daniel had whispered that night, slow dancing in our reception hall. "Almost as much as I do. Almost." God, the irony of that word. "Wouldn't miss it." I texted back. 7 p.m. Perfect. Love you, Lex. Love you too. I set my phone down, staring at those 3 words. Love. Such a small word for such a massive lie. Work was a blur of meetings and marketing campaigns. I was good at my job, senior marketing director at 32, youngest in the company's history. I'd built my career on instinct, on reading people, on knowing what they wanted before they did. The irony? I couldn't read the 2 people closest to me at all. My assistant, Maya, knocked on my office door around 3. "Mrs. Morgan? Your husband called. Said he'll be late tonight." Client meeting ran over. "He'll meet you at the restaurant at 7. Something flickered in my chest. Not suspicion, not yet. Just awareness. Daniel had been late a lot lately. 17 times in the past 2 months, to be exact. Not that I was counting. I was always counting. I just wasn't admitting it yet. "Thanks, Maya." She hesitated. "You okay? You look pale." "Just tired." I lied, adding it to the mountain of lies I'd been telling myself. "He's working hard. He's building his career. He loves you. Everything is fine." Everything was not fine. The restaurant was one of those places where minimalism costs maximum. White tablecloths, single flowers in crystal vases, waiters who moved like ghosts. Chris was already there, looking sharp in a navy suit that probably cost more than my first car. "There's my beautiful sister." He stood, pulling me into a hug that felt wrong. Too tight. Too long. Like he was holding on to something that was slipping away. I pulled back, studying his face. "You okay?" "Perfect. Just happy to see you." His smile was wide, bright, and if I looked closely, which I didn't, not then, slightly manic. "Where's the husband?" "Running late." Work. Something flickered across Chris's face. Amusement. Guilt. It vanished before I could name it. Always working, that guy. You'd think on his anniversary. It's fine, I interrupted, defending Daniel the way I'd been doing for months. He's building something important. Right. Chris's tone was strange. Something important. We ordered wine. Made small talk. And all the while, something in me whispered that I was sitting across from a stranger wearing my brother's face. Daniel arrived at 7:30, bringing apologies and a kiss that landed somewhere near my cheek. Sorry, babe. Crazy day. He slid into the seat next to Chris, and I watched them exchange a look, brief, coded, intimate in a way that made my skin prickle. No worries, man, Chris said, and his hand disappeared under the table. I told myself he was grabbing his napkin. I told myself a lot of things in those days. Dinner was a performance. Daniel's hand on mine. Chris's jokes about embarrassing childhood memories. Toast to love and loyalty, and all the words that would later taste like ash. To Alexis. Daniel raised his glass, eyes locked on mine with an intensity that felt more like goodbye than celebration. The best thing that ever happened to me. We clinked glasses, drank deeply, and I swallowed down the lie like communion wine, blessing my own destruction. At home that night, Daniel made love to me with a desperation that felt more like guilt than passion. I chalked it up to anniversary emotions, to stress, to everything except the truth. Afterward, he fell asleep quickly, phone clutched in his hand like a lifeline. I should have slept too. Should have let the wine and orgasm lull me into oblivion. Instead, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, while my husband's phone buzzed. Once. Twice. 3 times. The screen lit up the darkness. Chris. Can't stop thinking about earlier. Tomorrow. Earlier? We'd just seen Chris at dinner. What was earlier? Daniel. Yes. Same place. I'll tell her I'm working late. My blood turned to ice water. Chris. She's so clueless. I almost feel bad. Daniel. Don't. This is what we wanted. What we planned. Chris. I know. Still, she's my sister. Daniel. And she's my wife. Hasn't stopped us before. The phone went dark. I lay there, frozen, while my mind screamed denials my heart couldn't believe. There had to be an explanation. A reasonable, innocent explanation. There wasn't. I started watching them after that night. Really watching. The way Daniel's eyes lingered on Chris a half-second too long. The way Chris found excuses to visit when Daniel was home. Their inside jokes that excluded me. Their guys' nights that happened twice a week. The late meetings. The unexplained charges on our credit card. Charges to hotels I'd never stayed in, restaurants I'd never visited. And the texts. Oh God, the texts. I didn't snoop, not at first. But Daniel's phone seemed to follow me, left carelessly on counters and nightstands, almost daring me to look. So I looked, and I fell into hell. Months of messages. Photos I couldn't unsee. Videos that played on repeat in my nightmares. Plans for a future that didn't include me, except as a stepping stone. A trust fund with legs, a convenient fool. Daniel. 2 more months and the business will be secure. Then we can divorce her and take everything. Chris. What if she fights back? Daniel. She won't. She's too weak. Too in love. Too stupid to see what's right in front of her face. Chris. My sister, the perfect mark. Daniel. Your sister, the perfect joke. I read those words in my bathroom at 2 a.m., hand over my mouth to muffle the sound of my world ending. They weren't just betraying me. They were mocking me. My love. My trust. My belief in the goodness of people I'd given my whole heart to. I wanted to confront them. To scream. To break things. Instead, I did something smarter. I called Zara. Zara Chen answered on the first ring, despite the hour. Lex! What's wrong? Everything, I whispered. Everything is wrong. 20 minutes later, she was at my door with coffee, tissues, and a laptop that would change everything. Tell me, she said simply. So I did. All of it. The texts. The lies. The affair between my husband and brother. The plans to steal my inheritance and leave me with nothing. Zara's face remained calm throughout, the kind of calm that comes before a storm. Do you want to hurt them? She asked when I finished. Yes. Do you want to destroy them? I thought about Daniel's hands on Chris. Chris's laugh at my expense. The word joke applied to 3 years of my life. Yes. Zara smiled, and it wasn't kind. Then let me teach you how. Revenge isn't about anger, Zara said, fingers flying across her keyboard. It's about precision, strategy, patience. We sat in my home office, the one room Daniel never entered because marketing stuff bores me, surrounded by screens displaying my entire life in data form. First rule, they can't know you know. The moment they suspect, they'll cover their tracks, move assets, disappear. Zara's eyes met mine. Can you do that? Can you smile in their faces while planning their destruction? I thought about Daniel's kiss on our anniversary. Chris's hug that felt like a noose. Their laughter at my expense, captured in digital ink. Yes. Good. She pulled up a program I didn't recognize. Second rule, information is power. We need everything. Bank accounts, emails, texts, photos, videos, locations. Every piece of their lives becomes ammunition. How? Zara's smile was sharp enough to cut. I work in cybersecurity, remember? I know every vulnerability in every system. By morning, we'll have access to everything they think is private. She wasn't exaggerating. By 6 a.m., keyloggers were installed on Daniel's laptop, disguised as a security update I'd helped him install weeks ago during a fake virus scare. His phone was cloned, every text and call mirrored to a burner device Zara provided. Cloud accounts cracked. Passwords harvested. Last rule, Zara said as dawn broke over the city. When you strike to kill. No mercy. No half measures. You burn them so thoroughly they can't rise from the ashes. I looked at my reflection in her laptop screen, eyes red from crying, face pale from shock, but something new burning behind my gaze. Something cold. Something lethal. Teach me, I said. And she did. The next 2 weeks were an education in betrayal. I learned that Daniel and Chris had been sleeping together for 2 years, since 3 weeks after my wedding. Their affair started at Daniel's bachelor party, of all places, a drunken encounter that became an obsession. I learned they drained $200,000 from my trust fund to start Daniel's business, a business that existed only on paper, a shell company designed to funnel my money into offshore accounts. I learned Chris had been jealous of me since childhood. Every success I'd earned, every achievement I'd celebrated, every moment of happiness, he'd resented them all. The therapy records Zara uncovered were damning. She gets everything. I want to take something from her that she can't get back. I learned Daniel had never loved me. His journal entries, pretentious and cruel, called me adequate, useful, and in one particularly vicious passage, the most boring fuck I've ever endured. I learned they'd planned everything. The courtship, the proposal, the marriage, all of it orchestrated to access my inheritance, then discard me like garbage when they'd taken enough. And I learned something else. They weren't planning to just divorce me. They were planning to destroy me. Look at this. Zara's voice was tight with anger. On screen, an email from Chris to a psychiatrist friend asking about commitment procedures. How to have someone declared mentally incompetent. What documentation would be needed to seize control of their assets for their own good. Another email from Daniel to a lawyer. Questions about spousal abuse claims. Whether bruises photographed correctly could result in restraining orders. How quickly he could gain control of marital assets if I was hospitalized. They weren't just stealing my money. They were planning to gaslight me into insanity, frame me as abusive, and lock me away while they lived happily ever after on my dime. My hands shook as I read their plans to drug me, small doses of antipsychotics in my morning coffee, enough to make me erratic and unstable in front of witnesses they'd carefully selected. They were going to make you think you were crazy, Zara whispered. Then use that to take everything. I felt something crack inside me, not my heart, that was already dead. Something else. The final thread of humanity that might have stopped me from what came next. It snapped. Change of plans, I said, voice eerily calm. We're not just taking back what they stole. We're taking everything. Their careers, their reputations, their freedom. Zara's smile was proud. Now you're thinking like a queen. Part 4, the performance. I became an actress worthy of an Oscar. Every morning, I woke up and kissed my husband with a smile. Made him breakfast. Asked about his day. Laughed at his jokes. Every evening, I welcomed my brother with open arms, poured him wine, listened to his stories, told him I loved him, and every night, I downloaded their messages, their photos, their plans, and built a case that would bury them both. But I didn't just gather evidence. I played them. To Daniel, honey, I've been thinking about updating our will. You should have everything if something happens to me. He signed eagerly, not reading the fine print that actually transferred all marital assets solely into my name. To Chris, I want to give you power of attorney just in case. You're the only one I trust. The document he signed actually revoked any previous powers he'd held and included a clause admitting he'd stolen from our father's estate. To both, I think we should all invest in Daniel's business together. Real family venture. They practically salivated, not realizing the investment contracts were structured to make me the sole owner of all assets, with them as employees who could be terminated without cause. My lawyer, a shark named Patricia Chun who ate men like Daniel for breakfast, nearly applauded when she saw my strategy. "This is beautiful," she said, reviewing the documents. "By the time we're done, they'll own nothing but the prison jumpsuits on their backs. That's the idea. But legal destruction wasn't enough. I wanted them to feel what I felt. The betrayal, the humiliation, the soul-crushing realization that everything they believed was a lie. So I gave them what they wanted, permission to destroy me. It was Zara's idea, brilliant in its cruelty. Let them think they're winning, she said. Let them celebrate. The higher they climb, the farther they fall. So I played weak, played stupid, played the role they'd written for me. I accidentally left my phone unlocked with banking apps open, letting them think they had access. The accounts they saw were dummy accounts, filled with fake balances that made them drool. I confided in Daniel that I was feeling depressed, maybe needed therapy. Watched his eyes light up with predatory glee. I told Chris I'd been having memory problems, forgetting conversations, losing time. Saw him exchange victorious glances with Daniel. They thought the drugs were working. They didn't know I'd been dumping my morning coffee and replacing it with regular brew when they weren't looking. They thought I was breaking. They didn't know I was sharpening my teeth. The night everything changed started like any other Tuesday. "Working late," Daniel texted. "Don't wait up. Take your time," I replied. "Love you. Love you too." Lies, wrapped in a beautiful digital bow. I waited 30 minutes, then grabbed my keys. Zara's tracking software showed Daniel's location, the Meridian Hotel. Room 306. Chris's car pulled into the parking lot 15 minutes after Daniel's, and I followed, heart pounding, not with fear but anticipation. This was it. The moment I'd stopped pretending. The moment the mask came off. Not theirs. Mine. Part 5. The door. I stood outside room 306 for the second time in my life, but this time was different. Last time, I'd been a wife seeking answers. This time, I was a predator confirming the kill. The sounds were the same. Moaning. Gasping. The rhythmic creaking of betrayal. But I didn't feel pain anymore. I felt powerful. I pulled out my phone, opened the recording app, and let their pleasure damn them in their own voices. Daniel. God. She actually believed me when I said I had to work late. She's so fucking stupid. Chris. My sister, the genius marketer, can't even market herself as worth loving. Laughter. Cruel and cutting. Daniel. 2 more weeks and we file the papers. Get her committed. Take everything. Chris. Think she'll fight. Daniel. With what? We've isolated her, drained her accounts, documented her instability. She's got nothing. She is nothing. More laughter. I stopped recording. I had everything I needed. Almost. I knocked. The sound stopped abruptly. Frantic whispers. Movement. Housekeeping. I called, disguising my voice. Come back later. Daniel's voice annoyed. I knocked again. Harder. Jesus Christ. The door flew open. Daniel stood there, shirtless, face flushed, hair disheveled. Behind him, Chris scrambled to pull on pants. They both froze when they saw me. "Hi, honey," I said pleasantly. "Working late." What happened next unfolded in slow motion. Daniel's face cycled through shock, panic, calculation. He opened his mouth, and I knew a lie was forming. Some elaborate excuse about client meetings, and Chris just happened to be there, and this wasn't what it looked like. "Don't," I said softly. He closed his mouth. Chris stepped forward, and I saw something I'd never seen before in my brother's eyes, fear. "Good. Lex, listen." I said don't. My voice was ice. "I'm not here for explanations. I'm not here to scream or cry or beg. I'm here to deliver a message." I held up my phone, showing the recording app still running. "Everything you just said? Recorded. Every text you've sent for 2 years? Downloaded. Every document you've forged. Every dollar you've stolen. Every plan you've made? I have it all." Daniel's face went white. "You're bluffing." I smiled, and it was the cruelest thing I'd ever done. "Am I? Let's test that theory." Daniel, the offshore account in the Caymans, number ending in 4782. Your mother's maiden name as the password. Very original. The account you've been funneling my money into? Frozen as of 4 p.m. today. His jaw dropped. "Chris, the investment portfolio you opened in my name, the one you've been using to short sell stocks and pocket the profits? The SEC received an anonymous tip about it this morning. They'll be contacting you tomorrow." Chris stumbled backward. "The will you both signed last month? The one you thought gave you everything. Actually transfers all assets to me and includes a detailed confession of fraud. My lawyers are very, very good." "You bitch!" Daniel lunged forward. I didn't flinch. "Touch me and I call the police. I have cameras in our home, Daniel. I've documented everything. Every dose of drugs you put in my coffee. Every bruise you were planning to give me and photograph. Every single thing you were going to use to destroy me. I have evidence proving it was you." He stopped, fists clenched. "You're both done," I continued. "Your careers, your reputations, your freedom gone. And the beautiful part, you did this to yourselves. I just helped things along." "You can't do this," Chris whispered. "I'm your brother." Something in me finally broke at those words. Not into pieces, into something sharper. "You were my brother," I said. "The day you decided to betray me, you became a stranger. And I don't show mercy to strangers who try to destroy me." I turned to Daniel. "I want a divorce. You'll sign whatever I put in front of you, contest nothing, and disappear. Or I release everything to the press, the police, and your employer. Your choice. And if I don't," his voice shook, "then you go to prison. Both of you. Fraud, conspiracy, attempted exploitation of a vulnerable person. Patricia says we're looking at 10 to 15 years. Minimum." The silence was deafening. Finally, Daniel spoke. "Why? Why go through all this? Why not just leave?" I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw nothing worth saving. Because leaving would have meant you won. And I don't lose to people who underestimated me. I walked away, leaving them standing in the doorway of room 306, their perfect plan crumbling around them like ash. Behind me, I heard Chris sob. I didn't look back. Part 6, The Reckoning. They didn't go quietly. Daniel hired lawyers, the best he could afford, which wasn't much after I froze his access to our accounts. They threatened. They blustered. They claimed I was mentally unstable, that I'd fabricated evidence, that I was the real villain. Patricia Chen ate them alive in depositions. "Your client claims my client is unstable," she said to Daniel's lawyer. "Yet he's on record planning to drug her." Interesting defense strategy. The divorce took 3 months. Daniel left with nothing but his clothes and his car. A car I'd actually paid for, but I let him keep it. I'm not a monster. Just a woman who learned to bite back. Chris tried a different approach, family guilt. He showed up at my apartment with tears and apologies. "I'm sick, Lex. I need help. Don't do this to me. I'm your brother." "You're a predator," I replied through the door. "And predators don't get second chances. I'll tell Dad. I'll tell everyone what you're doing. Tell them. Tell them how you stole from your sister, slept with her husband, and tried to have her institutionalized. I'm sure that'll go over well." He didn't come back. But I wasn't satisfied with just divorce. They'd planned to destroy me completely. So I returned the favor. The evidence of fraud went to the SEC as promised. Daniel's employer received detailed documentation of his embezzlement. Chris's company learned about his theft from their accounts. Both were fired within a week. The sex tape, professionally edited to hide nothing, found its way to social media. I didn't release it. Someone anonymous did. Someone who might have been Zara. I definitely didn't ask. Within hours, it was everywhere. Reddit, Twitter, Facebook. Their faces, their names, their shame broadcast to the world. Daniel's parents disowned him. Chris's friends abandoned him. The life they built on lies collapsed like a house of cards in a hurricane. And still I wasn't done. Because the universe has a sense of humor, their affair imploded without my help. Turned out Daniel had a girlfriend on the side. A 23-year-old named Melissa who knew nothing about Chris or me. When she saw the sex tape, she posted screenshots of Daniel's texts promising her he was single and ready to commit. Chris saw the screenshots. Chris lost his mind. He confronted Daniel at what used to be their favorite restaurant. A public scene involving thrown drinks, shouted accusations, and eventual arrests for disturbing the peace. The video went viral. "Karma's more efficient than I expected," Zara commented, watching the footage. I said nothing. Just watched the two people who destroyed my life destroy each other. Part 7. The Trap Springs. 3 months after the divorce, Daniel called me. "Alexis, please. I need your help." I almost laughed. "You need my help?" "The SEC investigation. They're saying I could face charges. Federal charges. I'll go to prison." His voice cracked. "I'm sorry. For everything. I was wrong. I was cruel. But please, don't let them do this to me." "Why would I help you?" "Because you loved me once. Because we had something real." "We had nothing real," I interrupted. "We had a lie you told so convincingly I believed it. But that's over now." "Alexis, you know what the funny part is, Daniel? You could have just loved me. You could have been faithful, built a life, been happy. But you chose cruelty instead. You chose my brother over me. You chose to destroy me for money I would have shared freely if you just asked." Silence. "So no," I continued. "I won't help you. I'll watch you face the consequences of your choices, just like I had to face the consequences of trusting you." "You're a monster," he whispered. "No. I'm the woman you created when you killed the girl who loved you. There's a difference." I hung up. He called 17 more times. I blocked his number. Chris's breakdown was more public. He started posting on social media, long, rambling manifestos about how I'd ruined his life and stolen his happiness. How he was the real victim. How I'd seduced Daniel away from him. The delusion was almost impressive. "He's having a psychotic break," Zara observed, reading his latest post. "You should report him." "Let him spiral," I said. "The world's watching. They'll see exactly who he is." And they did. His posts grew more unhinged. More violent. He posted my address, my workplace, called for people to teach me a lesson. That's when I got the restraining order. And that's when he crossed the line from pathetic to dangerous. The kidnapping happened on a Thursday. I'd just left work, heading to my car in the parking garage, when Chris appeared from behind a pillar. "Lex, we need to talk." Something in his eyes made my blood freeze. "Chris, you're violating the restraining order. Leave now or I'm calling the police. You've ruined everything." He lunged forward, faster than I expected, clamping a cloth over my mouth. Chemical smell. Darkness. I woke up in a basement I didn't recognize, hands zip-tied to a chair. Chris sat across from me, crying and laughing simultaneously, a broken man wearing my brother's face. "I loved you," he sobbed. "I protected you. And this is how you repay me. By taking Daniel. By destroying my life." "You took Daniel," I said carefully, testing the zip ties. Zara had taught me how to escape them. Curl your hands just right. Flex and pull. "You slept with my husband. You stole my money. You tried to have me committed. Because you deserved it." He screamed it, spittle flying. "Perfect Alexis. Perfect grades. Perfect job, perfect life. Everything handed to you while I got nothing. Nothing. Chris, you need help. I need you to suffer." He pulled out a knife, and I realized two things simultaneously. One, my brother was truly gone. The person before me was a stranger piloting a familiar body. Two, I was probably going to die in this basement. But I'd be damned if I die begging. "Do it," I said calmly. He blinked. "What?" "Kill me. That's what you want, right? The ultimate revenge. I'm tied up. I'm helpless. Do it." The knife trembled in his hand. But know this, Chris. The moment I went missing, a dead man's switch activated. Every file, every recording, every piece of evidence I have on you gets sent to the police, the press, and the FBI. Kill me, and you'll die in prison. Not figuratively. Literally. What do you think happens to people who murder their sisters in prison? His face went gray. So go ahead, I continued. Prove you're the monster I know you are. Or let me go. Turn yourself in, and maybe, get the psychiatric help you clearly need instead of life without parole. The knife lowered, then raised again. You're lying. You're always lying. The door exploded inward. Police. Drop the weapon. Zara had been tracking my phone. The moment it went offline, she triggered every alarm we'd set up. Police, FBI, private security, all converging on the location my last ping came from. Chris didn't drop the knife fast enough. The gunshot was deafening in the small space. He fell, clutching his shoulder, screaming. Officers swarmed. Someone cut my zip ties. Someone else wrapped a blanket around my shoulders. And through it all, Chris kept screaming. She ruined me. She ruined everything. I loved her and she ruined me. They dragged him away, still screaming, blood trailing behind him like breadcrumbs leading to hell. Part 8. Judgment. The trial was quick. Chris's lawyer tried for an insanity defense, but the months of premeditation, the planning, the calculated cruelty, the evidence of fraud, killed that argument. Your Honor, Patricia stood, radiating controlled fury. This was not a man driven mad by circumstance. This was a predator who spent years systematically destroying his sister for no reason other than jealousy. He stole from her. He betrayed her. He attempted to have her institutionalized. And when none of that worked, he tried to murder her. She placed photo after photo on the evidence table. The hotel receipts, the forged documents, the drugs hidden in his apartment, the same antipsychotics he'd been slipping into my coffee. He didn't snap, Patricia continued. He planned, calculated, executed, and he would have succeeded if his intended victim hadn't been smarter, stronger, and more resilient than he ever gave her credit for. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. 25 years. Daniel's trial was separate but equally satisfying. The fraud charges stuck. The embezzlement charges stuck. The conspiracy charges stuck. His lawyer tried to paint him as another victim, seduced by Chris, manipulated into betraying his wife. The prosecution brought receipts. Literally. 2 years of hotel rooms booked under Daniel's name. Text messages where he initiated plans. Journal entries where he called me, the mark, and Chris the score. This was a man, the prosecutor said, who married a woman specifically to rob her, abuse her, and discard her. Who planned with her own brother to have her declared insane. Who drugged her. Who documented fake evidence of her instability. Who tried to steal not just her money, but her mind. 20 years. Both sentences to be served in different facilities, no contact allowed. The look on Daniel's face when he realized he'd never see Chris again was almost worth the trauma. Almost 0.6 months after the trials, I stood outside the prison where they'd sent Chris. He'd requested a visit, begged for forgiveness, promised he'd changed. I went out of curiosity more than anything else. They let him into the visiting room in chains. He'd lost weight, gained scars, looked like a ghost of the brother I'd once loved. Lex, he whispered, thank you for coming. I know I don't deserve it, but you're right. You don't. He flinched. I came to tell you something, I continued. Something I need you to understand before I walk out of here and never think about you again. He waited, hopeful and pathetic. You didn't ruin me, I said. You tried. God knows you tried. But all you did was kill the naive girl who thought family meant safety. And in her place, you created something you should have feared. I'm sorry. I don't care. And I realized it was true. I felt nothing looking at him. No love, no hate, just nothing. You're a cautionary tale now. A lesson I learned about trusting the wrong people. But you're not my brother anymore. You're not anything to me. Please, Lex. I'm still your family. No, I stood. Family doesn't destroy each other for sport. Family doesn't betray and gaslight and attempt murder. You're a stranger who shares my DNA. Nothing more. I turned to leave. Will you ever forgive me? His voice broke. I looked back one last time. Forgiveness would mean you mattered. You don't. And I walked away, leaving him weeping in chains, while I walked free into sunlight. A year after everything fell apart, I met Ethan Carter at a charity gala for domestic abuse survivors. He was a therapist specializing in trauma, kind-eyed and soft-spoken in a way that made me want to run. Men who seemed gentle had destroyed me once before. But Ethan was patient. He didn't push, didn't demand, just existed beside me, steady as a lighthouse in a storm I was still navigating. I'm broken, I told him on our third date, needing him to know what he was getting into. No, he said gently, you're healing. There's a difference. He taught me that love didn't have to hurt, that trust could be rebuilt slowly, carefully, with someone who proved themselves through actions rather than words. He taught me that I could be vulnerable again without being weak. He taught me that what Daniel and Chris did to me was about them. Their sickness, their cruelty, their emptiness, not about my worth. You survived people who wanted to destroy you, Ethan said one night, holding me while I cried through another nightmare. That doesn't make you broken. That makes you extraordinary. 2 years after the day my heart died, I visited the prison one final time. Both of them had requested visits. Both claiming they'd changed, found God, understood their mistakes. I didn't go to see them. I went to remind myself how far I'd come. Daniel looked shell-shocked when the guards brought him to the visiting room and he saw me. Older, harder, diminished. You came, he breathed. I did. I placed a photograph on the table between us. Me and Ethan, smiling at a beach in Santorini. Happy, genuinely happy. I wanted you to see what you lost, I said. Not my money, not my trust, but me. The woman who would have loved you through anything if you'd just been honest. The woman who would have supported your dreams, shared her life, built something real with you. I placed another photo. My new company, a consulting firm that had been featured in Forbes last month. My face on the cover, smiling with pride. You wanted to destroy me. Instead, you freed me. Freed me from believing I needed you. Freed me from the lie that I was nothing without someone to love me. Daniel's hands shook. I was wrong. I see that now. I threw away everything for nothing. You threw it away for cruelty, I corrected. For the pleasure of hurting someone who loved you. That's worse than nothing. That's evil. Can you ever forgive you? I smiled, and it was genuine. I already have. Not because you deserve it, but because holding on to hate was poisoning me. So I let it go. Let you go. You're a bad memory now, Daniel. A story I tell at dinner parties about resilience. A lesson I learned. But you're not my present. You're certainly not my future. I stood. Alexis, wait. Goodbye, Daniel. I hope you find whatever peace you're capable of, but find it without me. I didn't visit Chris. Some lessons don't require repetition. 3 years after the day my heart died, I stood at the altar again. Ethan waited for me, tears streaming down his face, looking at me like I was something precious, something worth cherishing, something worth protecting, not from the world, but with the world. Zara stood as my maid of honor, her eyes fierce with pride. My real family, the one I'd built from friends who'd proven their love through actions, surrounded us. And as I said I do, I realized something profound. My heart hadn't died that day in the hotel corridor. It had been murdered, but I'd done something they never expected, something they couldn't predict or control. I'd resurrected it, stronger, wiser, protected by scars that told the story of a woman who'd walked through hell and come out forged in fire. Daniel and Chris had tried to break me. Instead, they'd remade me into something unbreakable. A survivor, a fighter, a queen. And queens don't beg for love from people who see them as prey. They rule their own kingdoms, build their own empires, and they sure as hell don't let anyone, not husbands, not brothers, not anyone, convince them they're anything less than worthy of the love they give. 5 years later, I found this letter in my drafts. I never sent it, never will, but I keep it as a reminder. Dear past Alexis, right now you're standing outside room 306, and your world is about to shatter. I wish I could tell you it won't hurt, but it will. It'll hurt like dying, because part of you is dying, the part that believes in fairy tales and unconditional love and the inherent goodness of people you trust. But here's what I need you to know. That pain, it's not the end. It's the birth. You're about to become someone you never imagined. Stronger than you thought possible. Smarter than they ever gave you credit for. More resilient than steel. The man you marry doesn't love you. Your brother isn't your protector. But that's okay. Because you're about to learn the most important lesson of your life. You don't need their love to be worthy of love. You don't need their approval to be valuable. You don't need their presence to be whole. You are enough. Alone. Just as you are. The journey ahead is dark. Terrifying. Brutal. But you'll survive it. More than survive, you'll conquer it. And one day, you'll stand in the sunlight with a man who treats you like the treasure you are, surrounded by people who chose you not because they could use you, but because they genuinely love you. And you'll realize that the day your heart died was actually the day you were reborn. So walk through that darkness, past Alexis. Walk through it with your head high and your spine straight. Because on the other side, you're waiting. And she's magnificent. Love, future you. Moral. The ones closest to your heart can be the first to betray it. But your power isn't in revenge, though revenge can be satisfying. Your power isn't in making them suffer, though consequences are necessary. Your power is in rising after the storm, stronger, smarter, and untouchable. Love might break you. Betrayal might shatter you. But self-worth, true, unshakable self-worth, rebuilds you into something even your demons fear to face. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become after. Choose strength. Choose wisdom. Choose yourself. Always choose yourself. Because you are the only person guaranteed to be with you for your entire life. Make sure you're someone worth spending forever with. The end.